trust a few, fear the rest. Does that logline sound familiar? Well, it should be, because it's for X-Men 1, this poster I've got right back here, and I gotta say, one of the turning points in terms of comic book films, especially for the past 20-25 years. There were so many things that X-Men 1 did right. They really kind of grounded the comic book universe into reality. They didn't overuse the superpowers of each of the members. They used them very smart and kind of combined them in interesting ways. It was really kind of a novel approach to scale back how those powers were used versus the cartoons and the comic books. But I just got back from watching Fantastic Four, the 2015 version, and we've got all kinds of history around that one, and I knew full well going into it that this movie is basically just getting completely panned by critics. As a matter of fact, here are just some article titles from, these are articles released literally within the last day. Fantastic Four box office bombs with 26.2 million. That one's from Variety. Box office, 4 reasons Fantastic Four flamed out. That's from Forbes. Fantastic Four box office opening weekend a nightmare. That's from ScreenRant.com. Fantastic Four clobbered at box office. It seems like the new Mission Impossible movie is easily outpacing Fantastic Four. And I tried to go to this movie with a completely open mind. Obviously, my expectations have been somewhat tempered and lowered, although I never really let them get too high around this property anyway. If you look at the Fantastic Four franchise and the history of it, it is just one interesting story after another, none of them being major success stories, although I do think that we could say the 2005 Fantastic Four and its sequel that was released in 2007 did relatively well in terms of making some money. They came in at over $600 million made between the both of them, which is not a bad take for a major Hollywood picture. This movie, if its starting weekend is only 26 million, I think they're going to be hard-pressed to even clear 100 domestically, and that's going to make the future of it very interesting. Although it is worth saying that Fox is supposedly already reporting that they are going to go ahead with a sequel. There was a date that was already picked out for this, and they're saying that they're just going to press on and make a sequel to this movie, which, boy, man, I think they should really, really rethink. So let's talk about this Fantastic Four movie, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about the history of it. For this Fantastic Four movie, several things go wrong right out of the gate. Number one, you have an extremely weak script. There is no one that sat down with this script and thought that this was a good movie. If they did, they might have been smoking something. This movie has an extremely awkward pace problem, where the first half of the movie almost feels like it's filler, like it was literally added on to get the runtime beyond 90 minutes. The true part of the movie that you think is them trying to engineer a true Fantastic Four movie probably only occupies about 40 minutes worth of time, and everything else is this bizarre extension of story that does absolutely nothing, particularly for developing the characters, which is really, really strange. Fantastic Four always had this element of character development and, in a sense, this family structure that was called to and used in their storylines quite frequently. This movie does not follow that guideline whatsoever. On top of that, this was directed by, I believe his name is Josh Trank, and I'm wearing my good old Star Wars hat here. He was originally lined up to direct one of the upcoming Star Wars sequels that are being produced, and all of a sudden, supposedly, he pulled out of it. Some people say he didn't pull out of it, that actually news was leaking from the Fantastic Four set that he was not doing a great job there and he was kicked out of it. But one way or another, it looks like Star Wars is staying pristine and avoiding a director whose skill set, I think, is now being called into question because of what we have seen here with Fantastic Four. So there's this really weird thing that happens in the story. For the first 20 minutes, first of all, you're given this backstory of them as children. which no one really cares about. Like I said, doesn't do anything to move the characters forward. And there's this weird tone of being, it's almost like the movie is speaking down to the audience and trying to get you to buy into this concept that the rich old people that are in control of everything have got it all wrong, and there is a guy that's smart enough to now enlist young people to essentially fix all the problems of the world. And I just gotta say, what a shitty subtext that is for a script. Don't get me wrong, I believe that there is a good element in terms of being hopeful of young people doing that, but the way this script drives it, it's like it's the responsibility of youth to clean up all the errors of the older people in the script, and it just comes off really shitty. As a matter of fact, many of the characters in this script are extremely snide, just in terms of how they interact with each other, how they interact with the world. They are not... they're not really happy. There's actually a segment of this film where all of the Fantastic Four, the main four characters, decide that they're going to play Christian Bale trying to do Batman. All of them go dark and brooding, and it has been so used in superhero movies that we've seen lately, Man of Steel. Quite honestly, my body wanted to physically reject it. Like, I was just ready to, don't go there with these characters. Fantastic Four was always colorful, highly animated, characters that you would even say are quirky, nerdy, maybe difficult to believe. And there was something that occurred while I was watching this version of the Fantastic Four. Before I went to see it, I rewatched the old Roger Corman ending for his Fantastic Four. Now, you might not know about that movie because it was never officially released. It was a movie that was produced for only $1 million. Yes, a superhero film for $1 million in 1994, and it actually looks like it was produced more like in 1984. And unfortunately, if it would have come out in the mid-'80s, it probably would have been a pretty big hit. But on the heels of Jurassic Park coming out in 1993, it definitely does not hold up in terms of its visual quality, special effects. However, the story is by far beyond, way above and beyond this new 2015 Fantastic Four. It includes all the elements that you would expect from a Fantastic Four movie. And the point I was trying to make is, if you watch that old Roger Corman version and see the special effects that they use, particularly for Reed Richards and his stretching mechanism, they look cheesy as hell. Well, now fast forward to 2015. Now we have CGI and all these great new tools. The special effects for showing the new Reed Richards stretching still look cheesy as hell, even though they are very close to being photorealistic. And what occurred to me is, that character innately, whenever you bring him into a big screen environment where it's real people playing that character, it's always going to feel goofy, because we as humans know that your arm cannot stretch in that way, and as soon as it does, it starts looking unhuman, and we're always going to have this adverse reaction to seeing that. Quite honestly, Reed Richards is always, I don't see a mechanism where he cannot fall prey to that. And if anything, it's probably more of a call to the filmmakers that maybe they should make a Plastic Man movie that is comical, and so that they could use those types of special effects and have them work really well. But in this film, where they're trying to make it a serious superhero movie, it just doesn't work. And even though it looks technically correct, still when you're watching it, there's something in you that doesn't buy it. Speaking of that, the special effects that they used for The Thing, he is completely CGI in this movie, and they're not great. And I don't think special effect rocks are that hard to do. There was a whole world that was basically made of special effect rocks in the movie that looked pretty decent. But for some reason, the animation around him, the way he's designed, it just didn't come across very well. So there's also a pretty rough divide in the acting talent between the younger cast and the older cast. The older cast edges into hard melodrama, like, oh, I know I'm doing a comic book movie, so I'm going to take it way far out. And then you have the young cast that is trying to home in on, well, we're going to make this like a serious sci-fi thriller movie. And it just does not fit together well whatsoever. There's also something that, it's weird because this is a pretty well-known theater faux pas, There is one character that all of a sudden they decide he's going to be chewing gum. And I'm not quite sure why. And it starts in one of the oddest scenes because he's actually given a presentation to a room full of people while he's chewing gum, and it is super annoying. In every scene that he's in after that, for some reason he's chewing. It's almost like that's supposed to divert your attention from the fact that no one is really acting. And chewing gum, I'm sorry, is not acting. Luckily, it doesn't really muddle up his speech too much or anything like that, but it is extremely annoying. And spoiler alert, when he gets killed, you're quite happy that you don't have to see any more stupid gum chewing, and having that pass off as acting was really, really disappointing. So for this film, I literally found myself hard rolling my eyes all the way up into the back of my skull 3 times. So that's what I'm gonna rate it. It is 3 hard eye rolls. 3. Maybe 3.5, but definitely 3 hard eye rolls. The part of the movie that feels most like a comic book movie, which let me be clear about this first. Most of this movie does not feel like a comic book movie, and that's not a good thing. This isn't like the Marvel Universe where they've taken a different movie style, like a spy movie or an espionage movie, or like Ant-Man is kind of like a heist movie and they jack it into a superhero universe. No, this movie is more of a collection of thoughts about, it really feels like how they could just extend this story to fill an hour and a half because they only had about 40 minutes of a real Fantastic Four story. No chemistry between the actors. I would honestly not care if I never saw this movie, any sequels, and quite frankly, a bunch of those actors ever again. And I think maybe that's a little short-sighted on my part because I know some of these actors are pretty highly acclaimed. Let me just call them out real quick. Miles Teller plays Reed Richards. Not very impressive, and he never gets to the point of a Reed Richards that feels like a man. This almost feels like a teen Fantastic Four movie. Michael B. Jordan as Johnny Storm. He's got a little bit of charisma, kind of natural charisma happening there, but none of it is coming from the script, and the flame effects look good enough for nowadays, but nothing special in terms of that. Kate Mara as Sue Storm, didn't like her whatsoever. And outside of that, the romantic story between Sue and Reed just doesn't seem to pop up in this film. There's a little bit of a hint when they first meet where it seems like Reed might be flirting with her, and that is it for any type of love story in this whole movie. And it's a long time to go without developing those relationships at all whatsoever. Jamie Bell as Ben Grimm, also known as The Thing. I gotta say, there are a couple of scenes in the earlier part of the movie where he literally like gets mush mouth or something, and he's giving these lines out and you can't even understand what he's saying. And I'm sitting in a theater that was not filled with people, obviously, with a really awesome sound system, and I can't even understand what this guy is saying. So there was definitely some problems there. What's strange is all his dialogue for The Thing, perfectly clear and I can understand every word. But for some reason in the scenes where he was literally there acting, his words kind of fell away. Reg E. Cathey is Dr. Franklin Storm, and I gotta say, at first, for the first 5 minutes, he was kind of likable, and then all of a sudden he gets super melodramatic and he gives all these sweeping speeches. Another thing about this movie, the sci-fi talk, the sci-fi jargon they use in it, horrible, horrible, horrible. None of these people that touched this movie were apparently any fans of real science or even Star Trek or anywhere in between. Just the whole premise that they're jumping to this unknown world and the way they handle that. You know, they're not really aware of quarantining things or looking for radiation when objects come back from that other world. And they jump back and forth to that world almost like walking through a doorway later in the movie. And it's like, what is this here for again? Why are we going to this other planet? What is the point of all this? That's really how the movie left me feeling, which is, what is the point of all this? So I think I'm going to end that part of it. I don't know how else to tell you except avoid it. Avoid it. Avoid it. There is nothing in this to be considered a true Fantastic Four movie. If there's a sequel, I'm going to avoid it. It's not worth seeing for free, quite frankly. However, if there are Fantastic Four fans out there, the 2005, 2007 movies, they're here and there. Some people really seem to hate them. Other people are okay with them. But they're definitely much closer to what I consider both a superhero film and a film about Fantastic Four. For those of you that can appreciate older filmmaking, I highly recommend checking out the 1994 Roger Corman version of Fantastic Four. And you can find this on a couple places online, and honestly, it's as easy as YouTube. Go to YouTube and search for Fantastic Four 1994 and look for a link that says full movie, and there you will have 90 minutes of a much better Fantastic Four movie with, honestly, a very good Doctor Doom. The only unfortunate thing there was his dialogue was recorded with him wearing the mask, and sometimes it's a little hard to understand him. I think if they were going to release that movie, they probably would have redubbed all his dialogue, but it wasn't going that way. And before I let you guys go, I want to tell you about a special project that is going on right now called Doomed the Movie. And this is actually a documentary about the 1994 Fantastic Four movie and what happened around the production of it, how the cast was essentially lied to and told that this would be a big screen release. They showed the trailer in front of other movies. They went to Comic-Con and debuted the trailer, and then all of a sudden everyone heard that it was pulled, it was shelved, no one was ever going to see it again. Stan Lee was quoted as saying that that was a movie that was never going to be seen by anybody. Some other people disagree with that and say that the production was on the up and up and they were trying to make a movie that should have been released. It even goes as far as the orchestra was, I think the leader of the orchestra kicked in his own money to make sure that they could finish the score. I think he kicked in like $6,000 of his own cash just to get the score finished. So if you can appreciate movies that are shot in the old school style without all the crazy CGI explosions and nonsense that we have today, and if you could even consider it more of a artifact of 80s filmmaking, I think you will really enjoy Fantastic Four 1994. But as for 2015, run. 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 Before I go, I'm just going to let you know that I'm going to keep the link for Doomed the movie in the description box below, and I'll probably put a link to one of the postings of Fantastic Four 1994 down in the description box so you can click and check those out. You can actually help support Doomed the movie. They're raising funds, they're looking for people to spread awareness of it, so here's my part. I'm going to tell you guys about it, and hopefully you'll go check it out. You can buy all kinds of different merchandise. And if nothing else, please check out 1994's Fantastic Four. If you're a fan of either old-style comic book movies or the Fantastic Four, I'm pretty sure you're going to enjoy it. Whew, I know this was a big one, but I had a lot of info to get out. Run! Don't see this movie! Let me just put it there one more time. And I hope you're having a great day. I'll catch you on the next show on Geek and Dorks, a YouTube channel. See you at the end of the week with Brain Scratch. Take care.